Episode 38 of the Interpretation Station is Call to Order. Welcome to a new episode in the Wham Bam Thank You Milan format of the Interpretation Station. You'll see a slightly different background perhaps to what you're used to. Annoyingly, I have workmen who are working in the flat below me, doing a lot of drilling, workmen drilling. So I'm hoping that here, by escaping to my son's bedroom, hopefully the sound of their drilling won't be quite as audible. But we'll see, we'll see. Okay, so for today's quick Wham Bam Thank You Roland episode, we've got a statement that I put up in the LinkedIn group a couple of weeks ago from Senegal. It was at the Human Rights Council. The subject was in response to the report by the Special Rapporteur on persons with disabilities. So I decided to go with this one because it's quite a sensitive subject. There's a lot of sensitive vocabulary in play when you're dealing with this with persons with disabilities. So it's good to just see how you can sort of navigate around it a bit. What sort of things you can skip, but also what things you have to really say, and just in general seeing how to best render a statement on the topic with a lot of that sort of, as I say, sensitive, sort of very politically correct vocabulary that you have to watch out for. So, okay, off I go into the corner, and you'll see the screen here. So, starts off again. Always sort of remind, I always like to just remind you of these standard formulations at the start of statements. So, le Sénégal c'est ceci, aligns with. That's my favorite, to be honest, or endorses. S'associe à la déclaration prononcée, again, delivered by, I mean, you could just say made by, aligns with a statement made by Cameroon. Delivered sounds that slightly bit classier, shall we say. Pour la qualité de son travail. Now, here I've actually added something. I try not usually sort of cut things out. That's my general policy. But on occasion, with going from French to English, sometimes you need to add a word here and there, and I think this is a good place to add a word. When they say pour la qualité de son travail, de son rapport, I try and put in the high quality of their report. Maybe this goes back to when I was doing my internship back at the UN. I was taught by one very experienced interpreter back then, Lynn Visson, who's published many books. She's a great trainer, and she always said that, I remember, like, when it's qualité, that you should put in that high quality to just for that little bit more emphasis. So that's why I've done it there. Okay, now here we start to get into a sort of sensitive area. Here we start sort of skating on ice a bit, thin ice a bit. Okay, personne en situation de handicap. So the standard formula for that in English is persons with disabilities. Okay, if you're going really fast, okay, you can say maybe disabled persons, but the set formulation is persons with disabilities. And I put a star here, and in the star I've said, under no circumstances say the word handicapped. Okay, so yeah, in English, just avoid that word handicapped like the plague. All right, so they still use it in French, so that doesn't seem to have carried the same sort of connotations maybe in French. I don't know, but do not say handicapped when talking about persons with disabilities. Now there is an acronym, okay, for persons with disabilities, PWDs. It sounds nice. It doesn't sound great. It doesn't sound great at all, and I'd be very wary of using it. I'm not going to say don't ever use it. I would perhaps say be very selective when you use it. Don't be the first person to use it in a meeting, okay? If you're hearing a lot of other delegations are saying they're using PWDs, then maybe you can sort of get away with it, using it. And I also only use it if you're really struggling with a speaker. If a speaker is really speaking fast and keeps saying that, okay, it does take a long time to say persons with disabilities. It's a mouthful. If he's using a lot, then perhaps you can use it. Just be sensible. Just be smart about using it. Try not to. Well, all I'm saying is try not to use it, but you can use it. But just use it appropriately. Okay, la pandémie venue accroître leurs difficultés socio-économiques. So a good word for that. It's compounded their difficulties or it's exacerbated their difficulties. You want a couple of options for that kind of for that idea. Moving down, une prise en charge permanente. Okay, so for permanente, generally, I say ongoing. I don't say permanent that much, to be honest. I tend to, ongoing, I think, is better in English for that. And it's about ongoing care. Okay, prise en charge is just care, so ongoing care. Dû à leur statut. So I think in English it's better, avoid the cognate here, don't go with status, due to their status, what your status as a disabled person. It's more like, I guess it's your condition really, isn't it? In English it sounds better. Empirer leur situation de précarité. So here, okay, you can say worsen their situation or heighten their situation of this French word. This is précarité. It's always a bit of a nasty one that I don't like. So I think in this context, I think the best solution is vulnerability. They're in a situation of vulnerability. But I know they often talk about, don't they, in French, travail précaire, which is always, and I'm still, after 12 years of doing this, I still haven't found a solution that I'm entirely happy with, because it's like short-term work, precarious work. That word precarious in English, I mean, obviously it exists. It just doesn't, it sounds awkward, and precarity even worse. So precarious I can sort of just about live with, but when I have to say precarity, ooh, that doesn't sound right. But anyway, here in this context, vulnerability. Ok, s'inscrit dans le programme de développement durable. Here I like to use to feed into, that's my sort of standard solution for s'inscrit dans l'agenda or whatever it is, to feed into. And this whole thing here, programme de développement durable à l'horizon 2030. I mean, it's basically just Agenda 2030 that they're talking about. You can say here the Sustainable Development Program 2030. You certainly, this à l'horizon, you don't need to render the expression à l'horizon. Okay, here's another sort of favorite cliche I was going to say at the UN, but I think just generally in politics. Leave no one behind, ne laissez personne de côté. As I say, that's quite a favorite cliche. I think it used to be the favorite cliche at the UN a couple of years ago, but it's now obviously been superseded by everyone's favorite cliche. And, okay, moving on. D'autres défis auxquels le monde devra faire face. So I've just said here, you don't need the devra, do you? That the world is confronting. You don't have to say that the world will have to confront. Say will confront, so it's just redundant. Il est plus que nécessaire, so a sort of snappy way of saying that in English. I think it's high time. Okay, it is more. You wouldn't really say it's more than necessary. So I think in English the best rendering is it's high time. Revoir les systèmes d'appui. So the idea is you have to go back and look over them. So I was giving you update is one option. You could say review. I think would work here fine as well. Maybe to revisit, possibly. I think update and review are the best solutions there. Okay, here, lancé le 30 avril 2015. Now, I put brackets around le 30 because, again, I seem to remember doing this statement and it was going fast. And, if you're really going fast with the dates, it's, I think, if you can get the month, that's usually good enough, to be honest. If you can get the actual day, even better, but don't be killing yourself over trying to get the exact day. I mean, just said launched in April 2015. I mean, Jesus, this was 6 years ago. Does it really matter what this specific day was? Not really, I don't think. So launched in April 2015. And then, par son excellence, le président de la République. Now, here there's a lot of things you can trim. Okay, I think, son excellence you can probably do without. Président de la République. I know the French and the sort of French-speaking countries do like this expression, this grand expression, the President of the Republic. It's good, I think, maybe to try and say it, President of the Republic, if you can. But I think also that if you're falling behind, you can just say the President. You can drop the de la République bit. So try if you can to get it in, but don't feel bad if you miss it out. Okay, les personnes à faible revenu. So I put here low-income countries. That's a sort of these are sort of standard expressions. Middle, you know, often the middle-income countries. These are low-income individuals. Constitue un véritable système. Okay, so whenever they use constitue, it's usually just is. You don't need to say constitutes. Again, if you're short of time, just is tends to be fine. And I think better genuine than veritable. I mean, obviously there is that cognate or calc, you know, a veritable system of protection. I think in English, a genuine system sounds better. Dont bénéficient les personnes en situation de handicap. Okay, so I can hear for the benefit of, rather than having to say that benefits people with persons with disabilities. I think more natural in English is for the benefit of, but I've also put a star here, you see. So if you're in a hurry, you could just say for. So, you know, you don't even really need to say the benefit of. It's a very, you know, it's a genuine social protection system for persons with disabilities. That sounds perfectly normal in English, right? Elle favorise, entre autres, l'accès. So I've given you here promotes. It promotes access to multiple services. You can say maybe foster. I like also saying fosters for favorise. I find that, I think I've said this before, just because the two Fs, it sort of, I managed to sort of connect them like that quickly. But I think you promote access sounds a bit more natural than to foster access. But I think either would be fine. Impulser le changement de culture. So I put here to spur a cultural change. You can maybe say to drive cultural change, to boost cultural change. But I think spur is a good word to have, all right, in your arsenal. Okay, modèle fondé sur la charité. I've given you that as a package, and that is a package, all right. It's a specific concept, so the charity-based model, and this is what. So organizations that work for persons with disabilities, they tend to be against the charity-based model of just sort of handouts and just giving out stuff. The idea amongst many of them is to try and give persons with disabilities more independence. So they tend to be quite skeptical of the so-called charity-based model. Donnons la parole aux personnes en situation de handicap. Okay, give these people a voice for la parole, not the word. You don't give them the word, do you? And you don't give them the floor either, right? Obviously in French, donner la parole à quelqu'un is usually to give them the floor if you're in a meeting. So, but here it's to give these people a voice. Ma délégation voudrait souligner l'apport. So I've just done here, you know, again, you don't, if it's a fast text, you don't always need to go word for word. You don't need to say, my delegation would like to stress. If you're under pressure, you can just say, we, all right? Don't we too much, but, you know, just know that you can if you need to. Dans les processus de prise de décision. Okay, so I've put brackets around le processus because really, again, it's almost redundant. Their inclusive participation in national and sectorial decision making concerning their condition. Okay, so again, that process, it's neither here nor there. You can have it in, but you're not going to lose by anything by just leaving it out. And again here, leur état. It's not really, again, their status or their state. I mean, that doesn't sound right, doesn't it? Their state. Look at the state you're in. Okay, it's their condition, right? Les enfants handicapés. Again, same thing as I said before about handicapés. Same thing applies here. You say children with disabilities. All right. Disabled. You're going to say disabled children, perhaps, if that's a slightly quicker way of getting it out. Un appui psychologique plus soutenu. Okay, so sustain. I think for soutenu, I do like using sustained. Again, there's a slight similarity in the words. It's maybe a sort of cognate, and I think it works well. Sustained support in this context. And then finally, this expression gave me. I had to think about this a bit. Le vivre ensemble dans ce contexte. Now, I know this is a sort of common expression generally used in French. In France, the whole idea of le vivre ensemble, people from different backgrounds, different religions, beliefs living together. And this is an idea that, the French state fosters, le vivre ensemble. And usually in that context, the English equivalent would be like we talk about coexistence, peaceful coexistence, everyone living side by side in peace, all right? Now, as I've said here, I don't think coexistence sounds right in this context, because here the context is slightly different. The idea is people with disabilities living together with able-bodied people, okay, on an equal footing, being fully integrated, okay? So that's one option I give, to facilitate their integration in that context. And the other one notion that's often raised, for example, at the Committee on Persons with Disabilities, is life in the community, living in the community. So that was another idea I had. The point is, I don't think coexist in French. It can be applied to both contexts, both in terms of interreligious harmony, if you like, and also disabled people living together with able-bodied people. I don't think that works quite as well in English, so you want to tweak it. Maybe integration is perhaps the closest to the notion that they're trying to get. But as I say, you also have that life in the community as well option, which might be worth thinking about. Okay, so hope that was helpful. Hopefully that might help you steer the choppy waters of sort of sensitive issues like this, like persons with disabilities in future, give you a few ideas. Certainly you know what things not to say anyway from now on, hopefully. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe. If you're watching this, you've got to subscribe. If you're using the LinkedIn group, if you're getting any sort of benefit from it, please do subscribe. Pretty please. And I've left a link in the description box to get to the LinkedIn group. And I've got a new tutorial coming out on Sunday for you Russian speakers, Russian into English. And that's pretty much it. So, yes, episode 38 of the Interpretation Station is adjourned.